Hello everyone, this is WSC, and welcome to a showcase of my Mars Colonial City map. I've been working on this map for a few months now, and I am happy in the current state it is in, and am ready to release it. So I'm going to make a quick showcase here so I can go over everything I've done with it. But do realize I'm not going to go over every single detail, as this video would be way too long if I did. And as well, workshop link will be in the description. And to start things off here, we have the mountain mine. Now this is where you spawn whenever you load up the map, and you'll just spawn right here in this seat, looking this way. And in this mountain mine, there's a small kind of town built up here with a few houses and a few extra things around here. And for starters, here's the main mine building itself with 3 mining vehicles and storage, batteries and generators, and a bunch of other things just sitting around. And just so you know, there's no big convoluted mine behind this door, because I could not be bothered to make a full-on mine in this map because it lagged too much and it just take way more time than I would want to put into it. And as well, we have a little plunge miner here that I originally designed in survival, but I just put it here because I thought it would fit with the theme of everything. And here we have a little depot, but I'll go into more detail on that later. And as well, here there's 2 small houses and 1 wider house. I'll go into more detail on these later, as you'll see these a few more times. And as well, there's a small landing pad here with a speeder on it. And if you take this speeder up, it'll go all the way up on this hill to where this antenna tower is, onto another small landing pad up here, which once I get up here, you'll see there's just another one of these with the lights flashing because there's no vehicle sitting there, the antenna tower itself, and a house up here. And as you can see, the antenna tower, you can climb and everything, has the dish moving side to side. You can just barely see the city off in the distance over there. And going back down the mountain, you can see this little structure on this hill here. That is a defensive outpost that I'll go in more depth later. And as well, there's 2 smaller defensive outposts, but once again, I'll go into more detail on those here in a bit. And so all that's left here is the bus stop that you spawn at, and this little automated truck here that once you hit the button in it, it will take you to the city. And so let's move on to the city. And now that we have arrived at the city, I can start showing things off here. So to begin with, here's another one of those bus stops like we saw back at the mountain mine, but this one says, "Welcome to Basin City, the biggest city within the, I assume you say, Isidis Basin." And why I say it's in the Isidis Basin is if you look at a map of Mars and just the general geography of it, from what I can tell where this city would sit, because the Mars-like planet in the game and actual Mars aren't the exact same, this region would be this basin. But I can't be for sure, but it's the closest looking thing on it. So that's just what I'm going to go with. And as well, you'll notice here that this depot is also here, just like at the mountain mine. And now, since I can go over this depot a bit more, you can see it's got some batteries here and a bunch of storage. And as well, whenever you come into it with a vehicle anyways, this connector will lower down so it can connect to the back of cargo trucks and stuff like that, so it can deposit things. So it brings ore from the mine over to here and then drop it off and then go back. And as well, here are those two defensive outposts that were at the mine. This is the light one right here that just has 4 Gatlings and a spotlight, so it looks around almost like a lighthouse does. And as well, here's the heavy one that has 8 assault guns and is much higher up, so it can easily take on any sort of capital ship size threat that may come after this town. And as well, you can see there is 4 of those heavier towers that are in a formation to where they're at the 4 corners of a square. The only one that's kind of off from that is this one, and that's just because that warehouse sits there, so I had to push it over a bit. And as well, we have a little O2 farm here. Mind you, this doesn't produce much oxygen, but you know, it spices up the area around, and it looks neat. So, and as well, here's 2 of those smaller pod houses. And as well, you can see there's little last names above each one of these houses, and that's just, you know, to add a bit more life to this world. Like, you know, each house has the name of the inhabitants above the door. So, and as well, each one of these houses is pretty unique in its own way. So like this one is more curved, this one's angular, but this one has like a little area to park a vehicle, and then this one has an area that sticks off with a couple of solar panels on it. And these houses are really simple. They just have a standard airlock. You go inside, you usually have this simple area. There's always a survival kit, always a cargo container here, always an air vent. Some of them have windows like this, some of them don't have all windows. There's a kitchen here in this one. There's almost always a bathroom here. Little hallway with light. There's almost always the bedroom here. This one has windows here. Almost always an armory is here as well. And 2 beds in this one. And they can range from having 1 bed to 3 beds, depending on, you know, how I wanted that one to be. And like I said, all of them are super duper similar, just, you know, slight variations to make them all feel somewhat unique. So I'm not going to go over each individual one, but like for instance, looking in the window here, you can see this one has a bigger counter, not a corner couch, and as well it has 3 beds because you can see the windows for them there. And now moving on, we have this giant antenna tower just like the one that was up on the mountain, so the city and the mine can easily communicate to each other. And now that I can show this out in depth, it just has a little entrance here with the timer that makes the antenna look left to right and then back and forth. As well, it's got some cargo here just so you can put ammo in the turrets on this thing. The backs of some batteries here. And you can take these ladders all the way up this thing. All the way up to the top here. And it's got a little control panel here just so there is a control panel on this thing. And as well, it has lights on it here that may be a bit harder to notice, but if I switch it over to nighttime, they're much easier to notice. And as well, you'll notice that this tower is white then red and white then red. That's designed off of, you know, real antenna towers that I've seen before. And as well, the light pattern is also similar to real antenna towers. And moving on from that, we have the junkyard here. Now let me just switch it back to the middle of the day so we can get a better view of things. And of course it has a fence around it so people can't come in and steal parts from the junked vehicles in here. And it's supposed to have a little button there, don't know why that's not there. And as well, there's a few vehicles in here. There's a old rusty dune buggy, there's a few vehicles here with no armor on them, a couple planes, an old truck, and an old tank that's in pieces, and a bunch of just random thrusters sitting around for extra detail. And as well, outside of here, there's an old rusted up ship that probably barely works. Just, make it look like there's plenty of stuff here to choose from, or, to scrap parts from. And moving on from there, you'll see this little billboard here, which there's 4 of them around, and they all have, different signs and stuff on them, just to add a little bit of flavor around here, just to make it feel more like a true town. And here we have the big warehouse that was in the way of this one heavy defense tower. As you can tell, this warehouse is fenced in and everything, so, it would house more important things. And it's just got some junk lying around here outside of the main building. And then it has these little gates with gatehouses on either side to open the doors. So you can see there. So then a vehicle could get in. As well, the main doors here are automated. And this is where the town's military vehicles and important resources like ice and stuff like that would be stored. And also just other random things that need to be stored here, because, this warehouse is huge. You could put so much stuff in it if you really wanted to. And now moving on from there, we have these little biodomes here, which, would be used to have like small gardens inside and just as, nice pressurized spaces with plant life. And they have solar panels on them and, basic oxygen systems and airlocks and all of that. And lights on the inside of them, so it's always light inside of these things. And there's a group of 2 of them there, and then there's 2 more of them besides the domed part of the town. And moving on, we have this little greenhouse, or I call it a greenhouse because the details on it are green, with a little garage and generator to it. I'm just showing this off so I can show this garage, which there's plenty of them around the town. Just basic door, button panel in there to control the lights, lock the door, stuff like that. Door on the side, door on the back. And, this house has an oxygen farm and the generator on it. Just to, make all of them feel different, like I said. Now, moving on from there, we have this really big house. Now, I don't know who would live in this house, but I would assume, they'd be in higher status than the rest of the town, considering, this house is fully self-sufficient, has its own attached garage, and everything else. Like, this thing could stand on its own and be perfectly fine, besides it having weaponry. That's the only thing it's missing. It's got a main airlock here, with a button to depressurize the vent. And in here, it's got a little kitchen and living room area with a TV, a little dining table, back room here with all the refinery and assembler, hydro, and oxygen tank. Upstairs, you got the medical bay with the cryopod, and then up here, you got the bedroom and bathroom. And as well, even this balcony here is pressurized, so you can just leave the door open, sit outside. And if you go through the back door here of this, or the back airlock, there's a little generator outside here with an overhang and a connector on the back, so you can connect all sorts of vehicles to this house. And as well, this is just like that garage that I showed earlier, so I'm not going to go over it. And moving on from that, we have this big old repair shop here, which has its own billboard here to display what it is. And it has all kinds of things. Of course, you can close the door here. It's got an assembler and a refinery. Up here, you can tell there's some little cranes, so you can pick up a vehicle to help work on it. It's got the little area door you can go below a vehicle as well if you don't want to pick it up. And just in general, it's got everything you would need to maintenance any sort of, vehicle that could actually get in here. Which, for ground vehicles, is majority of everything that is in a mobile base. So moving on from that, we have a couple houses back here. This is just a wider variant of the normal houses. So it's just got a bit more space inside. I'm not going to go over it. And as well, here, you may be curious, what in the heck is this? Well, this is a concealed railgun turret, which you can see right here on top of this reactor to power it. There's this little camera, which is a custom turret, which is basically a spotter for the railgun. Whenever this camera spots an enemy, it will then open the doors up and then turn on the railgun turret itself. And so if you go in here, don't know why there's an airlock. I just put it there because it looks neat. If you open this up, you can see here, it reveals the big old railgun turret in here, which, you know, is for if there's a really big threat incoming that needs to be taken down so the city isn't destroyed. And there's two of them. There's one here, and then there's one all the way across on the other side that you'll see later. And as well here, you'll notice there's a little police station. And this police station's kind of interesting because I had no idea how to make a, you know, semi-futuristic police station that would kind of be on Mars. So I just put that sort of prompt into an AI generator, got something like this, and then built this. And as well, it's got a little landing pad here with a big old gunship on it with police lights and everything. And if you go in, or it's got a button here for the airlock. If you go in fully, give the airlock a second. See here, it's got a little waiting room in the front with a couple desks if you need to do paperwork or anything here, or something like that. And it's got a staircase to go up, and then it's just got an entrance to the back room here that, you know, contains everything vital for this thing to work as its own structure. And as well, you go upstairs and you'll see this is the computer room. You know, this would be where almost like the office space of the police station is. You know, it's got everything you would expect up here. Got a bathroom as well, just because, you know, don't want to have to go downstairs to use the bathroom here. And as well, you go through this airlock, and that will take you up to the landing pad with the big old gunship here, which is painted kind of like a police helicopter, if you can't tell. And moving on from that, you'll see it's got a little garage behind the police station that holds the police speeders. It's got a little blue stripe on it, so it can be identified as a, you know, belonging to the police station. And moving on from that, we have the big landing pad right here that has, you know, 4 massive pads on it for, you know, anything from small freighters like this to fighters to, you know, even large capital ships. If they can fly on a planet, they could probably land here. I've done it before, so. As well, you can see here, there's some fuel storage tanks, so if you want to connect a vehicle and fuel it up from there, you can as well. That's a reserve tank just off to the side. And as well, you'll notice that there's lights on here. So let me change it to nighttime so you can better notice these, which, you know, they cycle on and off. But if you notice, if a vehicle or a ship sits on it at all, these lights will turn off. So from a distance, if a ship's incoming, they know where they can land before they even get, you know, relatively close to this thing. As well, here you have stadium-style lights to light this thing up, just so there's not light poles all over the place and everything else. As well, the control tower here has 4 moving searchlights, just, you know, whenever a ship's incoming, they can all point at it, so there's plenty of light on anything that's incoming. So the control tower can see what they're communicating to if it's dark. As well, there's an airlock for the control tower right here, which once you go in, of course, there's the normal, you know, functional bits room with all the oxygen, hydrogen, O2H2, survival kit, battery, all that stuff. Then you go up this shaft here, you'll come up to just general room. It's got a bathroom right there, got some armories and just a table. Just a little chill out room, and then there's an airlock here to get outside onto the walkway of this thing. And you see here, it's got solar panels and everything too. Going back inside, you have a staircase to get all the way up this tower with windows on the side, so you get a good view of the town while going up. Then once you go up, you go through this door. And you got all the desks with all the control panels for the air traffic control tower up here. And up here, you get a pretty darn good view of the city, too. So, and as well, there's a programmable block to look like a big old computer up here as well. Alright, so now, getting out of here. Oop. We will be moving on to the next section of the town. Alright, now moving on to the next section of town. Just a little interesting thing here I put is I have a little info board with a beacon so people can figure out where it is. And there will be a link to this video in the future. And as well, just some little emblems, update GPS points for people, things I want to add in the future, just some fun facts, some lists of stuff I have, you know, my credits and just the time. And just, if you want to look at this in greater detail, I will sit here for a second. Go ahead, pause the video if you want to. Read all this. And move in a bit closer. And there we go. That should be long enough. As well here, you got more billboards and more defense towers. Also got a couple garages here. And just a group of 3 houses right here that are all, of course, have their slight differences. And then here you have that opposite railgun turret that's, you know, on the dead perfect opposite end of the town. So these two have full range of anything that could be incoming towards the town. And then here you have the Sol 4 Engine Company plant, which is a vehicle factory. And here you have the loading area, a little connector on a piston so you can dock any sort of vehicle up to this and then load off resources. For instance, you can take things from the depot, then bring them in here, or instead of that, you can just take them straight from the mine into here, because this thing has refineries and assemblers and everything else you would ever need for a fully functional plant like this. And as well, you got the storage back here, and just some parts racks, and a couple of welder walls here, so vehicles can easily be made up and everything. And you got all the buttons here to turn on the projectors and turn the pistons on and off. And the little wheels here, they're not spinning right now, but if there's enough weight put on this piston that it bows down a slight bit, that wheel will help it move along. And as well here, you got the lockers, and you got you a little room here with a med bay and everything, bathrooms, and all of that, just so there's a pressurized room in here, just so, you know, you don't have to go somewhere else to refill on hydrogen, oxygen, any of that. Just because this is such a big building, to pressurize it would be obscenely expensive, and, you know, would not be good if there was a breach in the walls at all. So, as well, there's a door right here to get outside. And going upstairs, you can get to the roof of this thing, which, you know, there's windows in the roof of this. As well, there's some turrets, just because this is a high value target of the city, and anyone who would want to cripple the economy of this city would just have to take out this factory. So I made sure that this factory is pretty decently well defended. As well here, it's got some smokestacks that whenever the factory is actually running, these smokestacks will turn on accordingly. So you can see there's just ladders and stuff to get all the way around here, just so if anything breaks, you can easily fix it. And of course here, you know, got lights on the side. And right here is the domed downtown of the city. And before I go inside of it, you'll see here there's, you know, some garages. Like this one I haven't shown off before, but it's just a 2-vehicle garage. Go in, got a switch for the lights and all that. And you just go around, there's a bunch of houses and stuff, another garage there, another 2 garages and a big garage, and those other 2 biodomes. But now it is time to move on to the interior of this dome city. So what you do to get on the inside, of course, is you hit the airlock button and you wait. As you can see the interior door there closing up, and it's depressurizing and then opening back up. And then hit the button before that door closes so you don't have to wait a million years. As well, if you can't tell, this airlock is big enough to where you can bring a vehicle into here. And once this opens, then we can show off the dome downtown. Alright, starting off with the dome downtown, you can tell here this airlock is numbered, airlock number 2. And you'll notice that there's 4 of them around, which are all those little things sticking out of the main body of the circle. And starting off with the buildings in here, we have the town courthouse, which if you go in, it has the little contracts things. If you wanted to set up this domed downtown itself as something in like a survival world or something, you could. Got a little office there that you can see in through the stairs, which is a bit of a flaw, but didn't know how to fix it without making it not stairs. You can go behind the desk there and you can access the contracts thing and everything else. Got an ATM here, just cause. Got a little plant. Go upstairs, you have a little courtroom where your jury and your bailiff and your defendant and everything else would sit. And now moving on from here, you got a little small greenhouse here with a speeder bike parked in its parking place. A bigger parking place here for a vehicle. And as you can see here, each one of these buildings sort of has like I guess you could say like a fenced-in backyard behind them where the battery's stored and a bunch of other junk can be stored. And right here, this building with the blue lights is the clinic for the town, which you can go into and you can access the med bay and, CAT scan machine and cryopods and everything else. So you can keep your citizens in tip-top shape and health. So, as well, that's all that's in this quadrant of the city. So moving on to the more commercial side of things, we have the general store here, which if you go into, it has a bit of everything. It's got some furniture for sale, some parts for sale, some little advertisements on the wall, TV, ATM, a little drink machine, got a come back soon sign, got a little planner thing, and a kitchenette. And it has a little store block here if you want to make this actual functional. And as well, a bit of an armory behind the counter, because, kind of need some firearms in a place like this. Just because don't know what you'll encounter. As well here, just to show this off, you can go back behind the counter, of course, through this door. And then you can exit out back here, which there's a little road back here that you can back a truck into or something like this, as you can see. And then there's a little alley that goes through here. And right here, we have the little diner, which has a little red neon lights, a little checkered floor, tables everywhere, and might be a bit familiar thing on the TV here. Jukebox, so you can play music, a couple bathrooms, and a bar here with all the kitchen stuff and your supplies here for the restaurant, and then a back door so you can also bring things in through a vehicle and load them off. And as well here, you got a little back area for this house, and behind here you have something interesting. And this is a medium-sized house here. Of course, it's got the little name plate besides the house itself, just like all of them do. And it's just got a little kitchenette and everything else. And over here, you have the more functional quadrant of the city, which you have the power station here, which is kind of like, gas station here, which you can connect vehicles to through this rotor. You got batteries there for it, and a little outbuilding here where you could pay for the power, I guess. And as well, behind the restricted access fence here, you have all the refineries for the town, the oxygen tanks, hydrogen tanks, extra parts storage, a bunch of other random junk behind here. And that's just so this dome downtown, if it ever had to shut itself off from everything else, it could be fully self-sufficient. As well, you got the little hotel here, which, is just your normal run-of-the-mill hotel you would see in a town like this. It's got a little waiting area, front desk, little sign here. Got some itty bitty tiny rooms just because, you know, gotta conserve on space in an area like this. Because you gotta pressurize this space. As well, here you got some storage for the town. And on the other side, you have a little apartment block here for people to stay in who are passing by or something. Got a little parking area here for a couple speeders. Each one of these apartments is the same. Got a little bed, desk, couch, bathroom, some lockers, and a kitchenette. A little button to turn off the light as well. It's got some stairs to go up it as well. And a little back area here. And this is a little park area behind the apartment block. Some tables and plants and nice neon lights, and see up there through the skylights and everything. It's just a real nice area back here. And as well, you can see there's skylights all throughout this thing. So if I change it back to daytime, you can see that this is actually quite a lively place, especially with all the lights that are already in here. So, yeah. As well, you can, if you don't notice, these windows are double layered, and, you know, the armor of the dome itself is pretty thick, so, you know, it's not going to be easy to puncture this dome and have it, you know, vent all the air out and cause problems. And as well, you got some maintenance access things that are on each side. Little tunnels that go all the way down into the center here with a gravity generator, just so this dome downtown was not specifically built for this world, but it's made so you can put it anywhere. So you can put it on like a moon, turn this thing on. You got normal gravity in here. As well, you got all the timers for all the big airlocks, and you got hallways to, you know, go to each side of the entrances to this little maintenance area. And as well, up here you can see all the pipes and stuff, all the vents and everything, and all that. Now on top of this thing, you can see there's the antenna, there's a little wind turbine as well, to measure the weather of the surrounding area. And there's some air intake vents for planets that, you know, have an atmosphere that you could potentially get some oxygen and stuff out of. And as well, you have some little exhaust blocks here to act as, you know, chimneys, I guess you could say. And you got some solar panels to help keep the town powered and everything else. Just in general, I really like this build. So, but with everything combined, it really brings everything together and makes this feel like a real town that, you know, people could live in. Because, you know, there's all the accommodations and everything else. And there's just enough uniqueness that it doesn't feel like, you know, some dystopian future or something, because I didn't want it to feel like that. I just wanted this to feel like some small town you could see. As well, here, I failed to mention, but you have the little walls around the town just to prevent bandits from, you know, coming in all over the place, just to kind of constrain any attack that may come this town's way. And that's basically it for the town. You know, of course, as you saw on the info board, I plan on adding things in the future to this town. You know, like add functionality with, you know, the Grid AI update when that comes out. Personalize the houses a bit more, which I've already done, but I want to add like little data pads and stuff just to add a bit more character to this place. And, you know, add more varied vehicles. So, you know, if you notice, like, this Jeep is in a lot of areas here, and, you know, just make it look like a bit more personalized for each vehicle. And add more defensive systems. What that means is just like automated drones and stuff like that, which, you know, that stuff I'd have to add with the AI update when that comes to fruition. But other than that, that's all I have for this town. And just to show off the town in full, here it is. And here it is at nighttime, as you can see with the spotlights around the antenna. And that is basically everything. Yeah, but the only real thing that I forgot about the town here would just be that some things I omitted from this video just because, I don't want this video to be like, an hour long or even 45 minutes long. I want to keep it around the 30-minute mark if I can. So you may notice that there's some buildings like that one over there, or, that suspicious area behind the store that I didn't go to. But, I'll leave that up to people to explore once you download this map, just because there's many interesting things to see and many interesting details that I put in here to really give it that lived-in touch that I just don't have the time to go over in a video like this. But other than that, I will say that this is the end of this video, so I'll see everyone later. Bye-bye.